Your Excellencies and dignified guests, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm going to start with a quote from a research paper by Mark Garrison, a professor from Texas A&M University. He says, social emotional learning constitutes a form of schooling for life as a virtual human at best and a robot at worst. So now, why would he accuse the teaching of a school-based mental health program of being responsible for creating a virtual human or robot? It would have to mean that students are being systematically programmed to think, feel, and act in such a way that takes away their individual capacity to make informed, uncoerced decisions. It's actually why many are questioning not only the relevance of teaching social emotional skills in education, but the morality of using edtech programs that utilize artificial intelligence to do so. Because while these programs sound like they teach beautiful qualities that any parent or guardian would want their child to have, a lot hinges on who gets to define these skills, how they're teaching and measuring them, and what that data they're collecting by assessing those skills is being used for. It also begs a very serious question. Should the loving responsibility of molding and shaping a child's character be taken out of the hands of the family and be put into the calculating hands of technology and its algorithms? For those of you who don't even know what social emotional learning is, the Collaborative for Academic Social Emotional Learning, or CASEL, is the standard bearer for SEL, and they're the organization that sets the definition and its 5 core competencies shown in the wheel. They've traditionally defined it as, quote, the process through which children acquire the skills to recognize and manage their emotions, develop caring and concern for others, make responsible decisions, establish positive relationships, and handle challenging situations effectively. CASEL even rates and reviews all SEL programs for how closely they align to their standards. Second Step, put up by the Company Committee for Children, is one of those programs, and it not only reaches 20.5 million students across the United States, K through 8, but it also is translated into many languages to be one of the most widely used SEL programs in at least 70 other countries. When Second Step came to my child's school in 2021, I started looking into this program and the organization CASEL. I discovered to my shock and horror that the lovely definition of social emotional learning and its 5 core competencies that CASEL had previously promoted had been completely changed in 2020 to a thing called transformative SEL, which Second Step has adopted as a framework for its program. The new goal of transformative social emotional learning was to create a critical consciousness in children so they would want to be social justice activists for particular collective political causes and ideologies. The lessons were designed to get students to question the worldview fostered by their families and adopt a new one that believed that race, class, and sex were social constructs, or ideas made up by society, to oppress specific groups of people. As such, they were encouraged to create disruption strategies to challenge and tear down the current systems of society to build new ones that were more equitable to those supposed oppressed groups. Equitable meaning equal outcomes for all, not equal opportunity and equality under the law. No matter your political views, this should alarm you, because education through social emotional learning is being used as a tool for cultural revolution through social behaviorism. Social behaviorism manipulates the psychological aspects of learning, in SEL's case empathy and perspective taking, as a means of manipulating the child with no regard for the familial, religious, or cultural beliefs they may come into school with. On top of this, these social emotional skills are being continually assessed and tracked to see if children are indeed acquiring the worldview they are expected to have. This video I'm about to show you is from the company Panorama Education, whose software measures 9 million students in 46 of the 50 United States and 15 other countries.
With Panorama, you can start by measuring students' social emotional learning skills and supports with research-backed surveys and assessments. It's easy to customize a survey that meets your district's needs, as you can choose from over 22 topics like growth mindset, social awareness, and self-management, or any of the topics that align to the CASEL framework. The survey will take students about 10 to 15 minutes to complete, and teachers and staff can also rate their students' skills right from within Panorama. Once the data is collected, get immediate insight into student voice, what students are thinking, and how they feel about their skills, habits, and mindsets. See how each score compares to Panorama's national benchmarks. Then dig deeper to to explore each topic in more detail, like how it's changed over time, or any gaps between student groups, and how students responded to each question individually. Then, identify individual students' strengths and opportunities for growth by filtering student-level SEL results to create SMART groups, which will update as new SEL surveys are run over time, allowing you to add specific students to a group for more targeted intervention and progress monitoring.
Let's highlight a couple of things about this horrific video. First of all, the subjective skills they are measuring are aligned to the Castle framework, which we already know has been completely corrupted. Second, somebody gets to decide how much empathy, compassion, etc. is enough to pass or be in the green, and or if children need more targeted intervention in a particular skill. They could be dinged for not showing enough empathy by using someone's preferred pronouns, even if that goes against their religious faith belief that gender is binary and that there are only two sexes. Or perhaps their score in social perspective taking could go down if they didn't acknowledge that they were automatically racist and have implicit bias simply because of the color of their skin. Whoever is running the system could then decide these types of students need to get more instruction in that area. Third, they're scoring and tracking their progress in these skills. If this data is meant to follow them throughout their academic career, into the workforce and beyond, what happens to the students who don't rewire their brains to adopt the worldview that SEL is trying to get them to have when it comes to their future opportunities in life? In an ESG or environmental, social, and governance score-driven business market, where hiring candidates with high emotional intelligence or social emotional skills is valued, will those students be shut out of a job they're qualified for just because of their personal, religious, or political beliefs? Or if this data is attached to a digital ID as part of a social credit system, will this mean they won't be able to get a loan or use public transportation if their social emotional score isn't up to snuff? Scarier still, what happens when it's not a person deciding to give more targeted intervention to students in these subjective skills, but a computer algorithm guided by artificial intelligence? We're already seeing this happen today through the competency-based education approach associated with what's called personalized learning, where assessment and intervention play an essential role. The feedback loop is determined by the data collection on the student, which then determines the future behavior of the algorithm to provide instruction that drives continuous improvement in the student in that particular skill. This may sound helpful when we're talking about learning academic skills that are objective, but when the definition of these subjective social emotional skills and the intended outcome is determined by actors with a certain political agenda, this looks less like character building and more like people fixing. Then that digital program is the one who has the most influence in molding and shaping a child's values, attitudes, and beliefs, and not their family. Maybe this is what Mark Garrison was referring to when he said that we were creating virtual humans at best and robots at worst through the behavioral engineering that happens through school-based social-emotional learning. In our efforts to build a peaceful society, we should not be willing to sacrifice individual agency on the altar of collective thought by creating compliant human droids that think, act, and feel the way the algorithm drilled them to. That isn't humanity. That's digital slavery. Students need to learn social-emotional skills organically through the connections they build through the deep roots of their families and culture, and the experiences they practice through building friendships and meeting strangers in the real world. It's not something that can be trained or manufactured artificially in a digital space with digital feedback loops, but something we cultivate around kitchen tables, on the playground, and at the corner store. Teaching social-emotional skills should not fall into the role of education. It should stick to math, reading, and science, and leave the responsibility of raising the child where it has been since the dawn of time, within the loving arms of their families. Thank you.